Welcome to today's news on TV9. I'm Ada Cho. In today's local news, unemployment among young people worsens while RID targets overseas loan dodgers, and a Kiwi social media startup celebrates their first-year success. The Electoral Commission has proposed changing the MMP voting system by getting rid of the 5% threshold and the so-called piggybacking rule. The proposals are sparking political friction among parties. Chrissy Joe reports.
The Electoral Commission review of the MMP model proposed lowering the party vote threshold required to get into Parliament from 5% to 4%, a move that would see parties needing about 23,000 fewer votes at an election. The review also suggested scrapping the so-called piggybacking rule, meaning MPs who win an electorate will not be able to bring others in. Labour MP Leanne Dalzell says the changes are reasonable because voters are sick and tired of the games being played.
We've got Peter Dunn in Parliament at the moment in Ohio. He was supported by the National Party to get that position, so in fact it was a bit of a rort the other way. Same with John Banks in Epsom.
John Banks won the electorate of Epsom last year after Prime Minister John Key endorsed him in what later became the controversial Teapot saga. Banks says the issue is not about political parties, but about giving voters a choice.
The voters of Epsom and the Asian community in Epsom wanted John Key to be the Prime Minister last election. That is why they voted for me.
Banks would not confirm whether he has the support of the government in opposing the proposed changes, but he says it's apparent that the National Party will not turn its back on a reliable coalition partner.
But why would the National Party support this proposal that has come from Labour and has come from the Greens and has come from the Winston Peters Party? Why would they support a proposal that could put the end to their support parties in the Parliament?
The Electoral Commission will present its final report on the review in October. It will then be up to the government to decide whether to take up the advice. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
A troubling thought of young people living at home on benefits as youth unemployment doubles. KHR reports.
Since the global financial crisis, youth unemployment rates have doubled, and young New Zealanders looking for work need to develop stronger soft skills if they want to find work.
And employers, unfortunately, tend to see young people as not particularly good employees. So they're wanting somebody who's older, who's experienced, who's got good interpersonal skills, or what we would call soft skills.
Employers are in a more difficult situation where job hoarding, being risk adverse and not creating new jobs are some factors that hold back hiring young people. But there are also advantages that young people bring to the workforce.
In defence of young people, I think young people these days have really got some excellent skills. They're really good at, for example, online technologies and computer literacy their computer literacy is very high. So I think young people have skills that are not always recognised by employers.
The youth unemployment rate in most other countries is 2 to 4 times higher than the rate in New Zealand. Young people are advised to get post-secondary education and build up on their soft skills, as the professor predicts that most job vacancies will require some form of tertiary education and mainly in the service sector. Kay Chow, 9 News.
Students living overseas and defaulting on their loans has long been a problem that needs solving. But now Inland Revenue is cracking down on those borrowers by working with Australian courts. Chrissy Zhao reports.
New Zealand has over 700,000 borrowers in student loans, around 600,000 of whom are based in the country and the rest working or studying abroad. But of those overseas borrowers, more than half are in default of their loan repayments, and now the IRD is threatening to bankrupt non-paying students who have chosen to flee across the Tasman.
Between Australia and New Zealand, we've had for some time now arrangements for what is called the reciprocal enforcement of judgments. In other words, both countries' courts are available to enforce judgments in the other country.
It means Australian courts could act on behalf of Inland Revenue in charging orders on properties and seizing assets, but tax lawyer Jeffrey Clue says the vast majority of students are no loan dodgers.
very many of those people have simply not understood what their obligations were, so they haven't necessarily deliberately fallen into default.
But Inland Revenue says for the small group of people who have made the conscious decision not to pay off loans, simply focusing on education and raising awareness may not be enough.
We reserved legal action for that minority, and it really is a small minority. And bankruptcy within legal action would be very much the last resort.
Richard Owen says the IRD has started campaigns on various fronts since 2010 to get overseas-based New Zealanders to pay up. By the end of June this year, $27.4 million have been repaid from 5,000 of those borrowers. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
Nearly half of New Zealand nurses have considered quitting their jobs after suffering moral distress over their work. According to Massey University's study survey, 48% of the respondents had considered leaving their job, while 16% considered leaving their current position immediately. Martin Woods, a nursing ethics and education expert, say the survey had reviewed the widespread impact of moral distress in the profession. And in the world of social media, one Kiwi startup celebrates their one-year success. Amy Chen reports.
As lives get busier and online consuming, especially Facebook and Twitter, becomes the norm, there needs to be a rewind and pause frame to hold on to moments in time. New Zealand's social media website StringsOf.me achieves that, tapping into users' creative side, celebrating its first birthday with 147% growth in sign-ups each month.
And the point of Strings is not so much about answering what it is now, it's about answering the same questions in a year's time, or in 10 years, or in 20 years. And so over time you can not only have that conversation with yourself, but you can also compare your answers with your children's answers or your grandchildren's answers.
The homegrown social media site has an interesting concept. According to Liebert, it's kind of like a time capsule.
Real opportunity for people to just take a couple of minutes every day now, and they'll get this really rich snapshot of who they are. And they may not appreciate it tomorrow, but they will appreciate it in 20 years.
Social media consultant John Randalls comments on StringsOf.me being a first of its kind, focusing on anonymous and personal thoughts.
What this does, and Ben talked about it, is it's very personal, so it's something that you might do for yourself rather than dressing it up to send it out to everybody else. So it's probably quite real.
The website is addicting to read, with simple questions that users answer with their own humour and unexpected wit. An example 9 News came across was, "What's a piece of advice that changed your life?" And one of the answers was, "Don't eat yellow snow." Amy Chen, 9 News.
For those who suffer from peanut allergies can now cling on to new hope. Kei-Cha has more.
Scientists have developed a skin patch that could eliminate peanut allergies by releasing tiny traces of peanut protein every minute. Worn on the arm or back, the aim is to let the protein gradually seep through the top layers of skin, and the immune cells can get used to their presence, learning to recognize peanuts so that they are no longer a threat.
It's quite an interesting technology in the sense of, introducing small amounts of protein from peanuts for people with skin with peanut allergy. However, for people with peanut allergy, even if they have a small amount, that could cause an anaphylactic shock.
At the moment, New Zealand has procedures to minimise the chance of peanut allergies being passed on to the next generation.
Currently what it is that if people have a family history of peanut allergy, but therefore the mother doesn't have peanut allergy themselves, then introducing small amounts of the peanut that they can tolerate to the fetus when the mother's pregnant would introduce the peanut substance to the baby for the baby to then build an immune reaction to it.
The skin patch has entered a year-long international trial involving more than 200 patients with severe peanut allergies. Soon, peanut allergies may be just a thing of the past. Kei-Cha, 9 News.
Do a little dance and share it online to support the Body Festival. Amy Chen has more.
A nationwide campaign gives the annual Body Festival a twirl in one city. The Mental Health Foundation is encouraging Kiwis to do a little dance in support of Christchurch's Body Festival as a way to unwind after a long, stressful day. In an effort to promote well-being, Mental Health Foundation Chief Executive Judy Clements wants everyone to get into the spirit of dancing a little. We want this to be the largest virtual dance performance in New Zealand. Get out your mobile phone, get someone to video you doing a little dance and send it to us. It's all about letting go of your worries, and it only takes a moment. Dance clips captured can be uploaded to the Mental Health Foundation's website during the Body Festival from 21st of September to the 14th of October. According to the Foresight Project in the UK, building activities into daily lives can help improve the well-being of families and individuals. Amy Chen, 9 News.
Now we have a TV9 host from Asia Focus, Julie Nixon, to comment on jobs that are drying up.
If you're an accountant or a retail worker, you could find yourself out of work in the next 5 years. Car manufacturers, IT workers and travel agents may also need to start thinking about a new career path as consumers turn to the internet to buy goods and services and as employers seek cheap labour overseas. That is according to an Australian recruitment agency which has compiled a list of jobs they forecast will disappear over the next 5 years. The reasons some jobs will become obsolete include technological advances and outsourcing. An example of the way technology is changing job opportunities in business is software packages that make accounting simple. Also, outsourcing is becoming the norm as Kiwis place more trust in overseas providers. These days, when calling up for a service from a New Zealand company, it's not unusual for the person on the other end of the phone to be in the Philippines or India. And it's not just the basic jobs that are going, it's also high-skilled jobs. If it's computer services that are being sought, employers are discovering that a computer programmer in India is much cheaper than one in New Zealand. Therefore, a person considering a course at university or some other place of learning is wise to take into account whether or not there will be a job at the end of it. It wouldn't be smart to select a course only to find after completing years of study that someone with your skills and knowledge are no longer required by the market. One of the biggest drivers of change has been the internet. It's usual for businesses such as bookshops, travel agents, video outlets and fashion stores to be selling goods and services online rather than via a retail outlet. The jobs that will survive are those that require a human touch. You can find these jobs in sectors such as hospitality, tourism, trades and healthcare. But for better or worse, it seems there is still a case for lawyers, government workers and politicians.